Part 4. Brady. Millbrook RV Park was open to long-term and short-term parking. There wasn't a background check and no questions were asked. The only thing Jeannie, the old woman who ran it, would do would be to put people with children in the same area whenever she could. It made her feel more comfortable. The owner didn't seem to care or understand the word liability should something ever happen to one of its residents. Brady Millbrook, the park's owner, did the park's maintenance himself. It saved on hiring out, usually, and he could keep an eye on things. He could often be found in his souped-up golf car, circling the park, picking up trash, weed-eating the grass areas, or fixing one of the machines in the laundry room. He often mowed in the late afternoons. There were over 100 spaces at Millbrook RV Park. He made good money off those spaces and wasn't about to let anyone ruin it for him. There were other reasons he liked to drive around slowly in the summertime as well. Only lasted one season. Brady liked to look at those through his dark lenses. He imagined himself swimming with those lush bodies and sweet young things. Never did he get in or get close. At his age, it was a good way to end up on a list. At least he could watch, as the owner of the pool, without too much suspicion. Of course, there were always the cameras. The cameras were in the changing area of the pool house next to the pool area. The showers were open at all times for those who didn't want to shower in their RVs. After all, those weren't the largest of spaces. Not to mention the hot water didn't last long, maybe long enough to get soapy, unless you got those in-mine hot water heaters. Most couldn't afford those. The cameras were those little bullet ones that went into the fake smoke detectors and the carbon monoxide detectors. They were easy to hide in the lights as well. He had perfect views of all the changing areas. He didn't care about the children, it was the women. Those full-grown, full figures with big breasts and lush hips. They weren't over 18. It wasn't worth Brady's time. He was a creep, self-admitted, but there were lines he wouldn't cross. Brady watched with interest as a primer red Datsun B10 pulled into the circle drive outside the office and pool area. It was pulling one of those small camping trailers used by some of the really poor backwood hunters. It was a really old 1980s Nomad. He laughed until he saw the 18-year-old girl get out of it. Something about the brunette caught his attention. She was very tall, athletic. She had long hair, braided down her back, and her skin was bronze from working out in the sun. She was wearing an old Colorado Rockies ball cap with the cap turned around backwards, and a pair of round, small-rimmed sunglasses. She wasn't dressed for work today. That was obvious by the cut-off jean shorts and the Aerosmith t-shirt. The arms were cut out of it, which left her dirty white bra showing under her arms. She stunk a country bumpkin, which meant she was calling home every week to someone. Brady sighed. This one wasn't going to last in the big city long. He thought about it for a few minutes and felt generous. Besides, she had nice hips. He wanted to see if she would use the pool. "Hey, Jeannie, you got incoming to the office. Put about Penny Glass," Brady said. "Sure thing, Brady," the old woman responded over the walkie. Penny was the kind that would befriend this one pretty quickly. Besides, Penny had pegged his creepy nature pretty quickly and called him out on it. She didn't do anything other than tell him to stay away from her. That was enough in his book. It made him smile, though, because Penny was a full-on practicing witch. She'd put up cert protections and had 2 deadbolts on each of her doors. Penny also open-carried a gun and had a hunting rifle visible in the window of her big-ass Dodge truck. That one was dangerous to him if he handled her wrong. He really wanted to see what she tasted like. She gave of this pleasant odor that spoke volumes of taste that made his mouth water. Power like hers always had a tasty kind of sweetness that was hard to resist. He still hadn't figured out a way to get to her. She had friends and family. Brady shook his head. He thought about introducing Penny to the selector and letting him puzzle out how to get her into his processing plant. It wasn't going to happen anytime soon. But the selector was quite the persuasive man after all. Brady sighed and watched as the new girl exited the office with Jeannie, and they rode over to where the new girl was going to be parked. This might prove entertaining at least. Penny would be distracted and might quit eyeing the pool house sideways. It was about 20 minutes later they returned to the car. The girl got in the car with a big smile and pulled around to park in her new spot. She moved the tiny little RV that was older than she was like an expert. He laughed again, not concerned with who saw. Jeannie came over the walkie. Her name is Rosie McQueen. Penny will like her, was all Brady said. They left the conversation at that. It wasn't worth much more. Brady found himself getting hungry and knew he had a liver in the fridge back at his RV. It was time to go to the selector again. His deep freeze was a small one, and it was getting low. At least Sunday dinner at his brother's was coming up. That was going to be a very good day. His brother always cooks out, and his sister-in-law made the best bacon-wrapped cheese bites. He would get to see his twin nieces. They were smart as hell and coming up fast. Of course, grandfather would be there and Wilma. The park was a good way to pick up transients, people just passing through with not particle destination. These were runaways, people job hunting, hobos, people living job to job, people with no family, people on the lam, and those who just couldn't get their lives together. The ones with demons that couldn't fight them were Brady's favorites. He could smell it on them. Those dark thoughts were easy to see in the ones that were drunks and drug addicts. Usually, they missed rent after the first month, which made it easy to evict them. No one was the wiser when they disappeared a month later. One of the selector's helpers showed up and took care of business in the middle of the night. It was fast, over with in a pinch, so as to not disturb the others in the park. Brady never helped, kept his hands clean this way. The followers he created were only a few and loyal. Those were part of the family requirements for remaining in the family and keeping fed. Grandfather was very stern, but he was only following the father's wishes. The mother and father were the grandsires of their entire family, and without them there would be no family. Time for the reunion was getting close. The mother and the father would want to see all of the children. That usually meant the first brood and all of the children. A meal by the selector was presented, and what a meal it would be. Brady's mouth watered at the very thought. He turned his attention to the kids climbing out of the pool. Teenagers that were so well endowed they could have been mistaken for adults. Clean skin, fresh, tasty morsels. The selector could make a meal for him. He realized he was hungry, and it was time to call it a day.